Time to rejoin the conversation. And we are back. And okay, here we go. Party politics. So, so I was thinking, there's all these old sayings that were kind of hitting me this week. And the first one really was hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And then that got me to thinking about one I heard in a movie, but it was a saying that I had heard before, is that attitude reflects leadership. And I remember a couple of things over the past month or so that, you know, we were yelling at the TV for something that the administration was doing or whatever, and I would always go, attitude reflects leadership, because, I think, people are going a little nuts or acting a little nuts, but when the people at the top are acting a little nuts, kind of what do you expect?
When you get a foam football. So when you yell TV, you can throw the foam football at the TV. Don't break the TV.
That way.
It releases some aggression.
It's a lot less expensive that way, yes.
What I do anyway.
But it got me to thinking about, before our current administration, our current president, before he was the president, was the talent. And before the show started, we were talking about, some of the kind of diva-like things that people do and ask for when they're the talent. And of course, the most famously is, a bowl of all green M&Ms in the dressing room, and we were discussing that, and that actually had something real and honest that led to them adding that to their contract. But it got me to thinking that, so many news outlets have said that, and not just news outlets, I've been, reading it a lot online, and that, that our current president has turned our government into a reality show. But it got me to thinking, well, for a lot of years, he was the talent on a reality show. So I wonder, how do you go from being the talent and being able to ask for a bowl of green M&Ms to being the president of the United States and having most of your activity regulated? We were watching a rerun of Scandal yesterday, and so in Scandal right now, there's a female president, and she was saying all the things that she just can't do because, one, she's a president, two, she's single, which is not something that you usually have in a president. And that got me to thinking about, how is our current administration processing the transition? So that's kind of where I wanted to table this conversation in where do we think the mind state is, given everything that has happened, all of the kind of theatricality with the executive orders and stuff like that. Not saying that any of it is right or wrong or any of that. Just, noticing that coming from where he's coming from, he's seeming to have a very difficult adjustment period, more difficult than most. And then the second thing I want to talk about is who out there in the field, on either side of the fence, Democrat or Republican, has been putting in the work so that, you know, they can eventually get to this office and be able to do that hard work. So let's start with Trump and the bowl of green M&Ms because I think that's probably the best place to start. And normally I would probably start on a side of the table that I at least think, because we never actually tell you that I think is more Democratic. But what I will say is I will go to the side of the table that I think is more Republican, and I will start with Chris Kipp.
Well, for starters, I voted independent in the last election.
Okay.
But normally I'm Republican. Dave and I are members of the Tea Party. And our philosophy was the Republican Party left us. We'd leave the Republican Party as far as our standards and our...
Okay, but you know what? Before you go forward, let's unpack that a little bit.
Sure.
Excuse me. Because what I've found is, or what I'm finding is, that the Republican Party is kind of fractured really into three parties at this point. And being somebody who's kind of leans toward the Tea Party, what exactly, because I don't know if people in podcast land actually know, what is the Tea Party looking for?
Well, it's not active anymore because what we saw stole too much from the Republican base. But the real key there is conservative values, less government, and basically the free market system works if you leave it alone.
Which sounds very Republican, but what makes that different from, I guess, what people would consider the traditional Republican?
Well, I think I can answer that. I think as independents and people who have some Tea Party beliefs, I don't have all the Tea Party beliefs, we're seeing we have a real problem with what we call become the establishment. When you got people who are in there for 30 years and 35 years, in our party, we have issues with that because we feel at that point they're no longer working for the people. And I think the Trump election and a lot of things that we've been dealing with as far as we're looking at things, we want to see the government work for the people. We want to see the government get out of our ways as far as being business people goes. You know, Chris is also a business person, I'm a business person. We've been crowing for years trying to say, I want to be in a group for health insurance. Why should just my little company trying to get health insurance and we can't get jack out of it? You know, but if I can be part of the National Home Builders Association and all the people that are members of the National Home Builders Association, well then I have a lot better chance of providing insurance for all of my employees. I really do.
Which does make sense to me.
So these are things that we're trying to push for, is that we don't like the old machine. We think the machine is broken. We think the machine has not done their job as far as trying to run government properly, as we see that they should run. And we also think that our religious organizations, like in Houston, are a lot more likely to be able to help people, give them the tools that help. We believe our charities can help. Perfect example of raising $600,000 for Community Link. I got a letter from Precious today, and she said we want to put 300 families, children, families, everybody else in housing with that money. 300. Man, awesome. That's cool stuff.
That's awesome.
But this is kind of what we believe, is that if you're supposed to provide us with your basic services, and we have some social programs that need to be run, but it doesn't have to go off the chart. If you're going off the chart, you're starting to get our back up.
Okay.
If you look at the fundamental things the country was founded upon, all politics was a bivocational. So you were a business owner, you went and served your time. Just think like jury duty. You went and served your time, then you left after that very short period and went back to run your business, so you were still involved in the community. You didn't stay and make it a career.
Right. Okay. All right. So I guess, okay, so with that premise,
Sure.
now seeing the current administration and 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 how the adjustment period has been working or not working. Now, what are your observations? Post putting
My
Trump
thing
in
is
office.
why it's been a little rugged at times, and somewhat very entertaining at times because it's just like what, I think most of us agree to a certain point that the tweeting should be a lot more. I'm not against the tweeting, but it should be a lot more controlled. I think John Kelly is controlling a little bit more than what he used to. But he has a big stick, and he's not afraid to go out and whack a Republican with it and say, well, if you won't do this, I'll go get a Democrat over here and we'll start working on this. So you look at Trump's work, and there's been some positive things that he's done to try to help the economy, which helps poverty. A strong economy helps poverty more than anything else. People work.
More than social programs.
Yeah. He puts people to work, which I've been doing. I've been putting people to work. And businesses will put people to work. There are a lot of injustice that we got to correct in that way, but still, it's all best done with the money, not by government. Government doesn't run things very efficiently. They really struggle in a lot of areas. You go to VA and a lot of different programs. There's some programs they do very well. I think FEMA's actually performed fairly well during these disasters. I don't think it can ever perform perfectly because it is a government entity and they have too much stuff going on to get out of their own damn way sometimes. But overall, they performed. And I think he's kind of brought this forward, and he's trying to work both sides of the fence sometimes, or pit them against each other. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah. The other fundamental issue is our system, because it's become a career politician type path to that house, is who do we end up with for candidates?
Which is
Very
why I added
very
that second
polarized-
component.
Very polarized candidites, right? I mean, from either side,
Yeah.
love them, hate them, right? Love them, hate them. It's
I mean,
there's nothing
because
between, right?
it seems as if at this juncture we're really only fighting for about 10% of the voting population.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got, it seems, 40%, 35%, 40% on the left, 35-40% on the right that are never going to leave those camps, and then you've got that 10%-ish in the middle that can be persuaded one way or the other.
Look at the Democratic Party and look at the Republican Party. They're both screaming from a lot of the newer people in there. We need change. We have too many old people in here that have been. The Democrats are saying it, and I know Chris disagrees. He thinks you ought to be in there a long time so you know the process. But also the Republicans are saying it. We need new leadership. This leadership is not getting things done. They aren't working for the people, and that's what most of the people are saying. We want to see results working for the country and the people and taking care of the issues out there that supplies with economic success. And that, I'll go back to that again. That's the one thing that really makes the country thrive, is that when we all are able to get jobs and try to take care of ourselves in the best ways possible. And we're wealthy and we're poor, but at least we all can find a way to work within our system.
Okay, so with that, I'll flip it to the other side of the table, and I'll start with. Actually, I will. I'll start with Adrian
He has
first,
good opinions.
and
I like what he says.
and we'll go from there.
I guess from a talent perspective, I would say experience is necessary when you especially when you're talking about politics. And it's not a jab at the current administration, but the lack of experience and what he's showing that he doesn't know is affecting the overall perspective of America as a whole. And I'm all for working through the process, earning your keep, and not just shoving somebody in there for the sake of replacing people because they have good ideas, but they don't know how to effectively process those ideas.
Right.
And I think now we're at a point where the diva side and the entertainment side becomes more of what we look for, as opposed to the person with the experience, the knowledge, and the overall just knowledge of how everything's supposed to work. I think it'd be detrimental when you talk about something that, the most powerful nation in the world, and it's in my opinion, it's been hard to really hold on to which direction we're going.
Yeah, because it seems to me the only other nation that seems to be like really gung ho, like we're behind you, we understand where you're going, is probably Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, yes, they're an ally of ours, but there's such an amount of discontent among the citizenry and the electorate that I haven't given up on the administration, but I have not seen something that looks like a real wisdom on that side of the fence that is moving things forward. I've seen a fair amount of drama. I've seen a fair amount of
Let me
theatrics.
ask you a question too. Do you feel like media is somewhat complicit in this too?
Well,
'cause that has become such a dominant factor anymore.
Well,
Is
if
that
you
news
take,
cycle.
even if you take the media out of it and you only go based on Trump's tweets,
Well, I
then
agree with that.
it's hard to reconcile somebody that, even if you don't understand politics, you should fundamentally understand that it's not okay to put people down, especially the leaders of other countries. Like, just fundamentally, as a human being, you should know that's not okay.
I think Rocket Man's kind of funny myself.
I don't think it's funny at all.
I think it's hilarious.
But
Because he's a boy with toys.
okay.
But the toys
But
are
he's
real
also
damn
a boy with a
Well,
toy
and I
that
think
can kill
that's
millions
my
of people.
problem. That is my
That's where it's
fundamental
dangerous.
problem.
That's where it's dangerous.
It's if he's a boy with toys, and these toys are fundamentally dangerous.
He's pissed off the boy. He's ready to do something.
And look, all of us growing up know on the playground, if you're flaunting, your new toy, but you won't let anybody play with it, eventually you go get your ass whooped on the playground, and it feels as if sometimes it feels as if he's taunting this fight. That is almost feeling like it's.
He's a bit of a taunter. He likes to taunt.
And I don't know that and maybe Chris can jump in here, but I personally don't know if I feel like that's, and maybe I'm being very democratic in saying that, not democratic politically, but just that I don't feel that tactic is helpful. Just me personally.
Is it any more helpful when we say, okay, if you're gonna test rockets, then be prepared for us to destroy your entire nation? I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, I understand having a strong opinion and saying, hey, we're not afraid to use force, but hey, let's come to the table as politicians and professionals, and let's discuss why do you feel the need to shoot off these rockets? What's your overall agenda?
Yeah.
I mean, normally from what I've seen, even as a youngster, whether it was Reagan and Gorbachev discussing bringing down the wall, or even now with Trump and his discussions of Rocket Man, it just doesn't appear that we're trying to rectify the situation peacefully.
Reagan had more class about it.
Well, and I don't disagree that the media potentially spins things or reports things too soon or You know, it goes back to the 24-hour news cycle, and they have to have something to report, and whether they know that it's, whether they know that it's completely accurate or not, it gets out there, and then, you know, but just taking all of that aside, because people have come to realize that they need to figure it out on their own. You know, it just,
Some people.
there's just things that you can't deny on tape saying the things. You know, so yes, the media may have something to do with it, but they're also showing clips of him actually saying these things.
Now Trump don't spin
So-
it. I mean, he says what he says and he owns it. I
It's
mean,
just-
you got to give him credit on that, whether it's stupid or not. And sometimes it is.
Okay, so you can
He
give him
doesn't
credit
try
for
to
that.
do the political speak. He owns it.
But that's where not having somebody that understands politics being in charge, because I find it hard to believe that he would actually run a company that way. You know, it just.
No, I think he would.
Oh, I think he would.
It
Absolutely.
Wait, I'm about to say that. I can see Chris's face contorting since the beginning.
I've actually
Let me-
been enjoying the quotations as I've been whatever the heck it is. Yeah, I've been enjoying watching your face.
what do you think?
I guess a whole school of just quick thoughts, and so I don't want to belabor it or take up too much time. One, I don't think he owns what he says. He constantly backtracks it, and when somebody calls him out on it, he calls it fake news. It's like, no, I'm reading your tweet right here. You did say that. And he says, no, I didn't. You guys are lying like always, and yada. So that, I think the inconsistency is really bothering me. You don't call Mitch McConnell a jackass one day and then have a 45-minute press conference with him today saying we're really good friends and we're on the same page. That doesn't work. Everybody knows you're lying. It's just stupid. As far as term limits, I think it's a ginormous mistake. I think this election was a great explanation of why it was such a big mistake, because neither of them were the two best candidates.
Right.
We got stuck with these two because there are a lot more people who couldn't run. So
Or afraid to run because of all the
no, I would
stuff they have to
throw
go through.
Obama and Bill Clinton, two people I'd rather see in office. To be honest, neither one of them could run, and I'm sure there have been other examples throughout history, but I think a lot of this goes back two things. One, I've never seen an outsider from somebody outside of the federal system, not just government in general, the federal system, be a very effective president. Maybe with the exception of Reagan, where you could argue that he was in that system for a very long time, and also ran the fifth largest economy in the world as governor of California. But I could point to Carter being a massive failure. Even Clinton's first term was a pretty massive failure.
Yeah.
And you're coming from two southern small states, and you don't know how Washington works really. That's a major problem. And then the other thing I would say is, and this goes back to FDR, and I think is a very large problem, is we put an enormous emphasis on what happens in your first 100 days of office.
Yeah.
People want speed. People want something done immediately, and it's this bizarre race to get shit done that may not be in the best interest of what's really going on. If you want to know the best legislation in this country, it's been by career people who haven't felt the need to kowtow to one side or the other because they're going to be in office long enough. My fear is if you go with no term limits, all you're voting for is ideologues, which is what we're getting now, who just go to these freakish extremes with no urgency or need to compromise. And whenever somebody says, I just want them to get the people's work done. Well, which people? Everybody wants their side done is the problem. So when their side doesn't win, it's always an example of, man, government's a failure. When their side does win, like, see, we're making some progress here.
When it shows results for the overall
When
good.
Obamacare passed, I guarantee you Democrats thought, man, finally the government's doing something right. We're getting together and doing this. Republicans were outraged. When, Bush does something stupid prior to that, man, Democrats were pissed. The country is a massive failure. Government's failing us right and left. And, Republicans do cartwheels. So.
Well, and I don't think term limits are I don't think you shouldn't have term limits. I think that they
I think if you don't,
I don't think you should
implement
just be
term
able
limits,
to be in for life. I think you should have to.
why not? You have to win every time. It's not like the Supreme Court where you're just appointed for life and you can't get the boot. You can get kicked out every either 2 or 6 years, depending on which office you hold, or 4 in the case of the president, obviously. And that is a referendum. If you don't like term limits, don't vote for the guy again. that's great, or a girl again. Who cares?
I've always felt you should be able to do this with term limits. Have a term limit. If you've done well, you sit out a term, and then you can run again.
Who says you've done well or not well? Who
You know?
cares? The voters say whether you've done well or not well, to be perfectly honest. I'll give you a classic
There's
example.
some points to that. I don't totally disagree with
This is, I think, one of my fundamental foundations. People go, we need to ban smoking in bars, right? This is a big thing. Gotta outlaw smoking in bars, or in Chicago's case, it's the city. Like, you could have done it at any point by putting up a no smoking sign. You didn't need to do all these stupid laws or anything else. Later, you're saying up a no smoking sign, nobody can smoke in your place. It's your place. It's the same thing with these. We don't need arbitrary rules passed that eventually hurt a lot of people that could be made better without term limits. And I really fear the freaks on both sides are the only people going to win without term limits.
No, you know what I'm saying? Well, okay, one, I want to pivot
Sorry,
to...
that was long.
No, you're good.
No,
I want to pivot
that's-
to...
Well said.
I want to pivot to... So, projecting forward, projecting into the future a little bit. Who at all are we seeing that we do like on either side of the fence?
But isn't that part of the problem, though? We're looking for the most popular person.
Well, I think when I'm thinking about who I like, they may be popular, but I've also seen evidence that they've got the experience and the temperament for this, because this is a very specific type of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you've
You're
decided.
talking about somebody like Booker or
Yeah, like for me.
Well, what about Rubio on the other side?
Well, for me it's Cory
Biden.
Booker.
Joe Biden.
Yeah, for me it's Cory Booker. I've seen the evidence of him sometimes even sacrificing his own safety to get things done when he was, the mayor of Newark, and the amount of times he's worked across the aisle since he's been in the Senate to work with Republicans to get these bills done.
I like that.
And that's what I'm looking for. I don't care if it's a Dem or a Republican or whatever. I want somebody who really feels, at least, that they've got the people's interest at heart. And I'm wondering who do we see? Like I said, for me, it's probably Cory Booker. I actually did think that Vice President Biden was the same type of guy, and he still could run if he wanted to.
I don't think.
But I don't know if he would.
Uncle Joe has done, I think.
I think he's
He's a little Trumpian in nature for the Democratic side. He just spouts his mouth off all the time. Plus, he's got enough skeletons in his closet to be smarter than run again.
Yes, I do think you're
See how many
correct on
speeches he plagiarizes this time when he's on the campaign trail.
Yeah, I think though the polarization definitely promotes voter apathy, and that's one of the reasons we get the more polarized camps. Because my side, your side, whose ever side, people start saying, well, if my side lost again and again and again, why should I vote, right?
Right.
Rather than saying, no, we need to, I encourage my kids, friends, young people, vote. I don't care if you agree with me or not, but just vote. Speak your opinion, right? You make your vote
But I
count,
think
right?
some of that comes to a point of the people, the citizens themselves, we're less educated in what's going on in politics. We have no clue. You got a bunch of people going into these booths and they're just hitting this touch screen, and they don't know what article, whatever they're...
They haven't researched it yet, and they haven't.
Yeah, they haven't researched
But
it.
I would say maybe this as a separate counterpoint, which I don't think you're entirely wrong. I just don't think the American electorate has ever been very particularly bright on issues, which is why I think you only see a fraction of people vote, for one reason. Especially in a municipal election, 20% of people turn out sometimes?
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
at
first.
best.
Yeah.
They don't do a
But
good
even
job
beyond
of
that,
promoting them
normally,
either, though.
I think people will tell you they're educated on the issues when they watch one side of the news.
Yeah.
You know,
They
it's
just
just
see it in
about
the
it.
Fox page.
I mean, I
Right?
can't.
People love to hear what they already agree with.
I can't make myself watch Fox News, but I do get other opinions from other places. Like, I can't. The way they talk, it just
Sure,
annoys
and
me.
then there's another
But-
half an audience that
Yeah.
says they can't watch or miss
Right,
music.
but
But
I don't watch or read only what I want to hear. Like, I need all the facts.
So if that was the case, DNN should be kicking ass right now, and they are always last on the ratings.
True.
The one news organization that at least pretends they're in the middle somehow in real journalism and America trusts us the most is always the lowest in the ratings. Is the vast majority of people love to hear what they already agree with.
Well,
Exactly.
For me, it's interesting. I got satellite
Just
radio.
confirmation.
So when I'm out on the road and I'm driving the distance, I'll put on progressive every once in a while, or I'll put on POTUS. Because you got to ground yourself. If you have any intelligence about yourself at all, you have to understand all the issues. And you have to understand where other sides are coming from. I find progressive sometimes they can be very bitter, angry, snarky at times, and then I also find some of the conservative people on their talk shows can be similar to the same way.
I have a hard
But
time.
you have to weigh something out. Sometimes you have, David Webb comes on in the morning. I find he's kind of an interesting guy to me. He approaches a lot of different subjects. He's a black man, so he sees some things in some different ways, but he's also a vet. So David Webb has a lot of interesting things that he says to me, and of course he's a conservative talk show host. But, you know, you have to turn around and educate yourself. You can't just march to the tune. The interesting thing about the Democratic Party is that for the most part, they're lockstep. And you said the Republican Party's fractured, that's true. Because they don't agree with each other. They are having different issues. That's not the worst thing in the world. That's actually can be a good thing, because now you got different opinions coming to things. You know, the fact that they couldn't, repeal Obamacare wasn't the worst thing in the world. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. Now they're going to have to go back and work on that dang thing. Can they get the tax? If they don't get the tax thing done, they're in deep shit. But I also predict that they will see guys like McConnell, some of these guys who are still a long ways away from it because they're 6-year term. He just got elected again, so he's got 4 more years. A lot of these guys will get voted out, but they might put another Republican in place,
Yeah.
which will go against Chris's thought that you're voting in a new guy. But you also it's good to have a little bit of new blood now.
If you read Hillary's book, I think you would say that the Democratic Party is a little more divided than.
They just don't
they're,
show it.
They're in necessity mode right now of all
Yeah.
voting the same way the Republicans were in the past. But what are the 38 people she blamed for her loss in the election? Was the Green Party and Matt Lauer.
We're looking here, honey.
And there were a ton of people there.
Wow.
Jill Stein.
What happened?
She's doing that.
Yeah,
She needs to go away.
yeah.
Every party once they get in power starts to become divided because everybody wants their interest on it, and you're finally in a position to do it. I mean, sometimes you play offense, sometimes you play defense.
Well, I don't want to get on Hillary. That's all stuff. I'll leave that.
Yeah, well, at least the one thing that I'm fairly sure of is that she's not running again. But she's definitely
I don't
not.
know.
I
She's definitely not.
don't know either.
She's
The
definitely
Democratic
not.
Party
leaving-
doesn't want her to run again.
She's definitely not leaving the political arena. But running again is something altogether different. So. I don't know if we've come up with any answers, but I guess the one thread that I do hear is that we're all, I don't care what side of the fence you're on, looking for somebody who's actually wanting to do good for the people as a general whole. That's not an easy task, and it's not an easy ask for that matter. I mean,
There's no utopia.
well, absolutely
You can't
not.
make all the people happy all the time. It's an impossible thing to do. But you have to go to where we take care of a lot of different issues and we make the general people where they feel like America's doing them as right as possible.
Well, and you
And
shouldn't
that's a
break
difficult thing
one
to
to
find
fix another.
sometimes.
This goes exactly back to my point. I mean, when we talk about good for the people, it's just good meaning what?
good for a social program that socializes Medicare, and healthcare, and maybe puts a lot of business owners at risk? Or is it better for America to, lay off on regulation and maybe let the free market take more of a course, which can leave people behind? It happens.
There's nothing perfect.
I think everybody thinks, and I am not a cynic, I think everybody thinks they're doing good.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
Really do.
Exactly.
I don't think you get into a low-paying job when most of them have done fairly well in careers prior to this to go, hey, I just want to do a shitty job.
Yeah.
Not a lot of them are doing that. I think most of them are there to try to get something done and do well for their constituents.
Yeah.
It's just nobody knows what good it is. It's a hard thing.
You know what? I think that may be the best place to leave it, because I think you're probably right. I don't, I've said, many a day that, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Everybody wants a job. Everybody wants their kids to go to a good school. Everybody wants the services for their, for their cities and municipalities to do what it is that they're supposed to do. But we may very well disagree on how we all get there. Either way it goes, I think that's probably as good a place as any to put a pin in this particular segment. And with that, we'll be right back. Hey, you having a good time? Let me introduce you to a couple of my media brothers. First, www.americathemixtape.com, a cipher on American politics, society, and culture. And where'd I get that mixtape? Of course, www.cornerbodega.us, purveyors of urban culture. Come on, let's get back to the party. And we are back, and before we get out of here, let's talk about today's sugar, honey, iced tea. And for those that don't know, these are things that I, or a member of the group, have found that are really cool, aka the shit. And today's sugar, honey, iced tea is coming to us from Big Dave. So take it away.
We have, here in Kansas City, we've had a good thing happen this last week. We had a man named Lamonte McIntyre, who at 17 years of age was accused of killing 2 men with a shotgun down in KCK in Quindaro. And he said all along he was innocent. And in fact, that's exactly how he laid it when he got convicted. He said, "Judge, I'm an innocent man." And he went to jail. He was angry for 2 or 3 years. Spent 23 years in prison, wrongly convicted. He got over his anger, got his spirituality. He also read a lot of philosophy. He's a philosopher. He read Eastern and Western philosophy. He read a lot of books. He read Shakespeare and different classics. And he also educated himself. And he fought all along. Nobody would take his case for a long time. Finally, a church group in New Jersey took his case, and they really started arguing. And they don't take cases lightly. They go back and do a background check on you. If you had any violence in your past, they will not take your case because they think probably you may have done it. But after 23 years, it finally came through that the judge here in KCK said, you are an innocent man. The evidence was there, that the detective pushed things through, the judge didn't review things, and he got convicted. Well, he was set free. And his mother, Rosie McIntyre, had a lot to do with it. But for this man to get out after 23 years of being an innocent man incarcerated, and have the attitude towards life that he has, it's tragic in one way, but it's also inspiring in another. Because for some reason in my heart, I really believe this man will be very successful. There's just something about him that is something. But can you imagine after 23 years in jail and getting out and not understand? I mean, I doubt he could drive my truck with all the push buttons and the screens and everything on it. He wouldn't know what to do if he sat in and I didn't even start the dang on thing. And, it's kind of a tough situation because you look at it and it is tragic. It was an injustice, a huge injustice. But at the same time, he's got out and he's going to make something of himself. He's not just angry and bitter. He's going to say, okay, my life is going forward. Today is a new day. I'm going to go get it. And so for that, I say, God bless Lamonte. That's a sugar honey iced tea if I ever heard one. And this wishing great success.
And it sounds to me like a free man, an innocent man going free. Sounds to me like that is the very definition of the shit. And with that, we're going to end this podcast in a way, and all podcasts, and that is with the toast that started it all for me. And that is to good times with good people.